This time I'm gonna go through my take on 5 TV movies I think you really should see before you die. There's no particular order in the list, and it's totally subjective, of course. If you do have other suggestions and opinions, please let me know in the comment section below. And you know how it works. It's no individual ranking between these entries in any way. There's just 5 TV movies I think you really should see. First out is Citizen X. There are many movies focusing on serial killers. First and foremost, the ones that deals with the most famous American serial killers, such as Ted Bundy or John Wayne Gacy. Lately, Jeffrey Dahmer even been subject for a popular TV series. But Citizen X is not about an American serial killer, but a Russian one, Andrei Chikatilo. I actually remember the trials against him being showed on Swedish TV through the news reporting. At the time, I didn't have very much knowledge about the case. Maybe I still don't, but I think that Citizen X gives a pretty accurate representation of the events. Of course, this is dramatized, and there might be details that are not really true. But nevertheless, it's a good, intense movie, and the acting is really good. Famous actors like Donald Sutherland and Max von Sydow and Steve Maria carry the movie. But I also think that people, including myself, is drawn to horrific and graphic violence based on real crime cases. Jeffrey DeMunn does a great job as Andrei Chikatilo. Citizen X is highly recommended. The second movie on this list, The Park Is Mine, was very hard to find on any physical media. At least it was a few years back. I know that there is an American edition of it on DVD, and I have the Blu-ray myself. It was pretty expensive, but it was well worth the investment. First and foremost, The Park Is Mine is driven by Tommy Lee Jones. He's trying to make a point that Vietnam veterans is not treated with enough respect. He doesn't birth the idea himself, but when a close friend of his is dying and asks him for help, it is a matter of honor and respect to make the statement. He takes over Central Park, and no one is allowed to go in. He doesn't demand much, just that he is in control for a couple of days. But society doesn't take lightly on that threat, because it is a threat against society. They are determined to force him out to the very extent that they send in mercenaries to eliminate the threat at any cost. Society, with the mayor looking to be re-elected, sees him as a threat, and there's a lot of politics in the necessity to eliminate him. But he also gains respect from other sides. The police has to follow the mayor's orders, but can still do it with respect. Japhet Kotto makes a brilliant role in this one. The third entry is The Woman in Black from 1989. This is a British horror thriller which was very hard to find on a legal physical media a few years back. It did indeed exist, but it was heavily out of print. Now when I think about it, maybe it wasn't a legitimate copy after all. Of course I saw it way back on some other format and fell in love with it. Years later I found out that there actually were a Blu-ray edition, so I ordered it right away, and this was just a couple of years ago. It's about this lawyer who needs to go to a distant house to gather some papers from it. Of course, the place is very remote and it's claimed to be haunted. And haunted it is. It's a creepy film with very effective scenes. There are some that still makes me, as a serious, seasoned film buff, shiver. And it's a really, really good spooky film. I haven't seen the fourth movie in this list in ages. When I first saw it, I was in my late teens. Me and my friend were on a mission renting every movie with Charles Bronson we could find at our local video stores. Yes, those were around back then. I'm really that old. Haha. I'm talking about Radon and Tebbe that only contains Charles Bronson in a minor part. Of course, we didn't know that when we rented it. But then again, it depends on how you see it. It's not an important part that he plays, but I can't say that it's the main character either. There are loads of stars in this one. Who's really playing the lead is hard to say, but with names like Peter Finch, Martin Balsam, Horst Buchholz, Robert Loggia, Jack Warden, and of course Charles Bronson, I had totally forgot that John Saxon and James Wood was in it. But not that Japhet Kotto, that I also mentioned in the previous entry, The Park is Mine, plays the Ugandan dictator Idi Amin brilliantly. The story is based on true events when a flight is hijacked and over 100 Jewish passengers are taken to Uganda. Israel, of course, refuses to negotiate with the hijackers and instead launches a military operation to free the hostages. It's very good drama, which seems to be very close to the true story. But of course, there are a bit of dramatization. But on the other hand, do you really need much more drama than being kidnapped and held hostage in Uganda under Idi Amin's protection of the kidnappers? Do you really? For the final entry, I have picked a movie that I could not find on Blu-ray when I was set out to collect this director's every movie on that physical media. I think it's available now, but I never got around to get more than a DVD of it. I'm talking about John Carpenter's Someone's Watching Me. John Carpenter was my first favorite director, probably mostly for Halloween, but also other movies he made pretty early on. I was never really a fan of Attack on Precinct 13 and The Fog when I first saw them, but they grew on me later. I was fascinated by the versatility of his movie making, and I later realized that he could do both action, horror, and science fiction films that were all great. Maybe he lost a bit of his magic in recent years, but I also think that it's because we, as an audience, already have seen it all now. Someone's Watching Me was made for TV, and John Carpenter later claimed that the late 70s was a very exhausting time for him, and that he couldn't hold that tempo ever again. Not only did he make Halloween for release in 1978, Someone's Watching Me is also from the same year, and Elvis, another brilliant TV movie, in 1979. They all hold a very high standard, and add the fact that he also wrote the screenplay for Eyes of Laura Mars, and that is very well known for also composing the music to his movies. It sure was busy times for him. The story of Someone's Watching Me is pretty simple. A woman in an apartment block gets stalked by a man who seems to live across the street and terrorizes her by all kinds of ways and let her know it too. Of course, the police either don't believe her or cannot do anything about the situation, so she takes action herself. It's a highly effective movie that I'm glad is available these days. There were a time when it was totally impossible to find, but now there's no excuse. That's it for this time. Thank you for watching, and I hope I will see you in the next video. Until then, keep your thumbs up and have a nice day.